Have you ever driven a luxury car? Have you ever imagined that the concept of the luxury car you drive today was once designed by an engineer accused of fraud? How would you feel if you knew that the designer of this concept once faced charges of 15 years in prison and a $25 million fine? What if that person had never existed? The following story will deepen your understanding of ambition, the support system of family, passion, and everything that leads to realizing a dream. Be careful, it contains spoilers. Enjoy watching. The film begins by showing a man named Preston Tucker. He is an engineer from Detroit, a visionary scientist who is extremely obsessed with cars, a passion that started when he was just a child. As an adult, Tucker marries Vera, but marriage doesn't distract him from his dream of creating a revolutionary modern car. To find inspiration, Tucker often spends time at racing circuits or speedways with racing legend Henry Miller. Then, in 1936, as war begins to rage, Tucker becomes interested in creating high-tech combat vehicles. With his spirit and vision, Tucker eventually succeeds in building a combat vehicle with high torque, bullet resistance, air conditioning, and high speed. Unfortunately, the combat vehicle is rejected by the government due to a policy that combat vehicles should not exceed 35 miles per hour. However, Tucker remains undaunted, continuing to innovate in hopes of producing his dream car. One day, Tucker returns home from the office with a design for a futuristic car. This car has a better body, high torque, and an engine placed at the rear, while the front is used for storage or luggage. To realize this car, Tucker needs funds. He begins to look for investors willing to buy shares. Then, a man named A.B. Carrots is invited to Tucker's home to discuss a partnership or investment in producing this car. But Carrots is not interested in the project. Tucker tries to convince Carrots to collaborate, knowing that Carrots has the capital and strong connections. Unfortunately, Carrots remains uninterested, leaving Tucker disappointed. To alleviate his disappointment, Tucker takes his wife and children for a ride in their combat vehicle to an ice cream parlor. There, Tucker spots a magazine that inspires him to publicize his idea in a magazine called PIC eventually. With the help of his acquaintances, Tucker manages to present his idea in a magazine called PIC. Surprisingly, the idea receives a positive response from the public. Tucker also receives thousands of letters expressing admiration and eagerness to see the car in person. People who initially scoffed at the idea gradually become interested in Tucker's vision. Additionally, a former soldier named Alex Tremulous approaches Tucker to apply for a job as a car designer. Alex presents a more aerodynamic car design, and without hesitation, Tucker hires Alex to work in the design department. A few days later, Carrots, who initially refused to collaborate, returns to Tucker to discuss the revolutionary car again, encouraged by the public's overwhelming enthusiasm for Tucker's car. Carrots was even more surprised when he saw Jimmy, who also worked for Tucker, because he was Japanese. At that time, it was indeed uncommon for Asians to work in America. Subsequently, Carrots and Tucker discussed plans for building the Tucker car factory. Carrots mentioned that the construction would require a land area of 475 hectares, comprising 16 buildings, with the main building occupying 73 hectares of this area. They then began the construction of the factory, but of course, it was not easy and required a significant amount of money. For this, Carrots and Tucker needed funding from investors to build the factory. Later at a dinner banquet, Tucker presented the advantages of the Tucker car compared to existing vehicles. Tucker convinced the investors that the car and the factory he planned to build would be far better in terms of design, and most importantly, safety. Tucker designed his car to be much safer, minimizing casualties and accidents. To reinforce his point, Tucker also showed photographs of accident victims who were driving cars with flat glass and not wearing seatbelts. However, this backfired, as the presentation of accident victim photos made the investors lose their appetite, disappointing Carrots, who felt Tucker had made a foolish move by showing these photos and failed to secure investors. Nevertheless, Tucker believed he had successfully presented his case. This was evidenced when a man named Oscar, an assistant from the War Assets Administration office, approached Tucker, inviting him to his office the next day. The following day, Tucker went to the office to meet the head of the agency, accompanied by Oscar. In the meeting, the agency head agreed to the establishment of the Tucker Car Factory, provided Tucker had an asset guarantee of $15 million and could produce 50 units of cars within a year, failing which the factory would be taken over. After the meeting, Oscar immediately urged Tucker to quickly create a prototype of the car to attract investors and get them to invest in the company. That night, Tucker and Karatz debated over the share price and the selling price of the car. Karatz felt that if the price offered was too high, but Tucker argued that the price was justified considering the public's enthusiasm to see and own the car. Subsequently, Tucker, Karatz, and a few others from their team struggled to find investors to build the Tucker car prototype. In summary, after securing several investors, Tucker began constructing the Tucker car prototype using a chassis from an old car. After some time, Tucker succeeded in creating the company he envisioned. He also recruited Bennington, a former senior official from Cadillac, to the board of directors. However, problems arose again when the company's board of directors demanded the swift completion of the prototype car. To ease his mind, Tucker sought comfort in the company of his wife. A few days later, Tucker informed the board that the development of the Tucker car was hindered due to difficulties in obtaining raw materials. To address this issue, Tucker and Karatz attempted to meet with a senator to seek assistance in facilitating the acquisition of these materials. However, this was not an easy task. The meeting had barely started, and before they could discuss their problems, the senator had to leave for another appointment. The situation became even more complicated when Tucker visited the factory to check on the car under construction. He was extremely upset to find that the prototype was not yet completed and that the promised components were not up to par. Moreover, a workplace accident occurred at the factory, nearly claiming the life of the designer. This incident led to a dispute among the employees working on the car. Despite various issues, Tucker continued to work rapidly on the car, and eventually, the construction of the prototype reached the finishing stage. Tucker and his colleagues then prepared for the launch of this revolutionary vehicle. When the launch day arrived, guests and the press were ready to witness the long-awaited masterpiece. However, problems persisted just before the launch, forcing Tucker to use a gimmick to calm the increasingly impatient audience. Finally, the Tucker car was unveiled to the public. The attendees were amazed by the groundbreaking creation, from its innovative design to its advanced technology, including fuel injection, disc brakes, and a top speed of 135 miles per hour. It also featured safety belts, a rear-mounted engine, and was fuel efficient. The car was then paraded around the city for the public to admire. Furthermore, the car was showcased in various cities across America, garnering enthusiasm from people eager to see the future of automotive technology in that era. Tucker's success made him a superstar in the eyes of the public. Meanwhile, as Tucker toured the city with his new car, the board of directors unexpectedly changed the design and engine layout of the Tucker car. This was met with resistance from the production team, but when they tried to confront the board, they were blocked by the board's secretary. This led Vera, Tucker's wife, to confront the board about the changes. She not only disputed the design alterations, but also protested against the board's decision to double the car's price. However, the board did not take her protest seriously. The board justified the price increase by citing the soaring costs of steel and the scarcity of raw materials. Consequently, Vera urgently called Tucker to come home, as the board had made significant changes. Hearing this, Tucker immediately returned home to meet the board of directors. Upon returning from his promotional safari for the car, he directly approached the board of directors, protesting their actions in altering its car's design and reducing various devices that had been the strengths of the Tucker car, such as the removal of seat belts, disc brakes, full injection, and not using a rear engine. Tucker was angry because it was his company, but the board stated that the contract he had signed gave them full authority over the company. Hearing the board's statement, Tucker was greatly shocked. Meanwhile, his friend Karatz claimed he didn't know the details of the contract. He also said that to sell shares and attract investors, he needed a name of someone experienced. Here, Tucker felt betrayed. He then met with his friend to consult and understand what was really happening. Besides, he planned to contact a lawyer to handle the matter. Based on the information obtained, these irregularities were closely related to political matters. A senator was suspected of being involved, and an aircraft factory controlled all the steel also used for car manufacturing. After consulting with a lawyer, Tucker continued building his car. The board of directors then came to confront Tucker. However, Tucker firmly stated, "This is my car, and that is your car." This made the board of directors threaten Tucker, and they would bring a lawyer. But Tucker was not intimidated by the threat. He continued to build his dream car until he conducted a test drive. As time went on, the conflict between the board of directors and Tucker led Carrots to choose to leave the company. On the other hand, Tucker's actions angered the senator. The senator demanded an investigation into Tucker's car. Tucker was accused of committing a $26 million stock fraud. Not only that, he was also accused of lying to the American people by producing a car that did not match what was advertised. Hearing this, Tucker's son and wife tried to calm and encourage him. The next day, news of Tucker's stock fraud also appeared in the newspapers. Additionally, at the office, the Securities Exchange Commission, or the Securities Market Regulatory Body, conducted a search. They seized all documents of the company. Meanwhile, knowing Tucker's company was on the verge of bankruptcy, the board of directors, led by Bennington, resigned. Not only that, they officially shut down the Tucker factory. Knowing this, journalists asked various questions to the board of directors about resolving the lawsuits filed by the investors and car dealers who had invested in the company. The closure of the Tucker factory halted all production activities. This made Tucker very sad because his dream of mass-producing a revolutionary car would fail. Now in the Tucker car production room, shortly thereafter, Tucker turned on one of the cars there to take it for a spin. This was seen by the production team members, who knew Tucker was sad. To cheer him up, they deliberately entertained Tucker. They also reminded him that the Securities Exchange Commission could not produce 50 cars within the stipulated time. Next, Tucker received a call from Carrots. He said there were several police officers and reporters at his house. Therefore, Carrots suggested that Tucker should not return home just yet. Tucker, an ambitious engineer, was undaunted. He then started the car and drove to his house. Upon arrival, Tucker mockingly evaded the police, engaging them in a chase. In this chase, the police cars seemed humiliated by Tucker's car because they could not keep up with the revolutionary, faster, and more modern engine of Tucker's car. But Tucker was responsible. He later surrendered himself to the police. A few days later, Tucker was brought to court to be tried. He faced 25 charges and was threatened with a 15-year prison sentence. In short, the trial then began with the reading of the charges by the public prosecutor and the examination of the witnesses. Meanwhile, at the Tucker car factory, Tucker's friends worked hard to produce 50 Tucker cars before the deadline. After that, the trial resumed. Before the session began, Tucker and his wife read a newspaper whose contents were, "The senator requests the War Assets Administration Office to seize all Tucker factory assets and hand them over to a company." To cut a long story short, the trial resumed with the defendant's defense. This time, Tucker himself would present his defense. Tucker narrated the chronology of the Tucker car's creation, starting from a dream imagination to the prototype and then mass production. Not only that, he also mentioned various obstacles and pressure from politicians. In presenting these points, Tucker became so emotional that it led to the judge intervening. After regaining his composure, Tucker managed to prove that he had made 50 cars as promised, with several of them already parked in front of the courthouse. Therefore, legally, the seizure of the Tucker factory was called off. After a break, the jury finally decided that Tucker was not guilty of all charges. In addition, his factory was not seized. This decision was greeted with joy by Tucker's supporters. And to celebrate their victory, Tucker and his supporters held a convoy with the newly made cars. Thus goes the story about the origin of the modern car used to this day. Thank you, and see you in the next storyline.